We are back in the chat room on 94.7 FM. I'm so happy. This is my favorite time of the week to come and hang out with you guys and talk about those relevant topics that impact our communities and our world. As I always say, I hope you guys are taking really, really good care of yourselves. And this is a hot summer. Take good care of yourselves and stay hydrated and drink that water. I always say I'm preaching to me too. Let's stay hydrated so that we can be well. Um, Today, I am really excited, as always, to bring you a really good, great topic and one that really hits home for me. And we're going to talk through some of the challenges that women, particularly Black women, face in the workplace. There's a 2021 Gallup poll that showed that the experience of Black women at work differs from that of other Americans, even that of Black men and white women. Understanding Black women's double minority status at work is a necessary part of building inclusive and equitable workplaces. The survey also found that Black women are less likely to feel that they are treated with respect in the workplace, and they are less likely to feel like a valued member of their team and that their coworkers treat them fairly. We know that Black women, face multiple and intersecting biases due to different aspects of their identity. And sometimes organizations don't always take full advantage rather of our skills. Therefore, our mental health sometimes is impacted due to non-inclusive workplaces. So we deal with burnout and have to navigate through all the microaggressions that come with it. And it's hard to thrive when you aren't happy and you don't feel appreciated. So today we're going to talk about some of the challenges that women face in the workplace, particularly, as I said, African-American women, and just try to sort through some of these challenges and what are some of the underlying things that are going on and how do we navigate through these processes. I am honored and we have just the perfect person to help us do that, Miss Christy Rutherford. She is an advisor for two executive leaders and businesses. She is a keynote speaker and author. She published 5 number one best-selling books on Amazon in 8 months. She's a Harvard Business School alumna, and she is also a certified executive leadership coach from Georgetown University and has been featured in Forbes 3 times. Christy is the 13th African-American woman to achieve the rank of commander in the United States Coast Guard's 225th plus year history, where her demographic was 1.1%. Christy responded to the needs of the citizens in New Orleans 2 days after Hurricane Katrina and had a 3-year congressional fellowship with Congressman Elijah Cummings at the House of Representatives. Her academic portfolio also includes an MBA and a pastry chef diploma. Among her many professional accomplishments, her national recognition includes Harvard Business School's 2018 Launching New Ventures Pitch Contest Grandmaster Champion, Cambridge Who's Who Among Executives and Professionals, Career Communication STEM Technology All-Star, and the Edward R. Williams Award for Excellence in Diversity. And she also loves chocolate. We are so honored to have her to come and hang out with us for this hour and to help us navigate through some of the challenges that women are facing in the workplace. Thank you so much, Christy, for being here today. I appreciate you.
Thanks for inviting me, Ron. I can't wait to share this.
Yes. It's time for us to dig deep into this. I tell you, there are so many women waiting to hear what you have to say because we all have our own sense of struggle, right, in the workplace. One of the things as I've been following your work that I noticed is that you believe that it's hard for women to be vulnerable at work. Mm-hmm. Speak to that. Why is that?
One, it's a lot. It's hard for women at work. One. And we're attacked when we come in the door. Strong women are attacked when we walk in the door. And there's this, I think it's a Harvard Business Review study that talks about 65% of women who graduate from college aspire to the executive level, 35% of men. After 2 years, we go from 65% to 16%. And our confidence falls by 50%. Men stay the same. So we're taken out of the game in the first 2 years in the job. And the women who make it past that, the women who still aspire to it, are survivors. High achieving women and strong women, we're not born strong, we're made strong through what we've survived. And so we're going to work to prove everybody wrong, because we came out of a HELL that we're not trying to go back to. We came out of a childhood struggle that we're not trying to go back to. We came out of something, somebody, or we're trying to prove somebody wrong. If you had a good childhood, but I was talking to somebody today who went to a Catholic school, so she's always like studying all the time and working harder. And it's because her parents taught her, you got to work hard for everything that you want. So that's her programming. And then the second part is she's always trying to prove that she's smart, because when she was in school, she was told that she wasn't smart. So now we come into being at the mid to the senior level. We're so paranoid and crazy. We're overworked. We're not asking for our value. We're underpaid, and we're bleeding while everybody's applauding for our success. We're bleeding from the battle scars of what it took to be who we are. And now, vulnerability, please. We are women of steel. We eat no for lunch. We are robots, and we're everything to everybody and nothing to ourselves.
When you talk about like being stripped of the confidence, like been there, done that, been really angry with myself when I realized that was the case. But this thing about proving yourself, I think we are programmed in that way. Like, I may be the most educated in the room. I may be the most experienced in the room, but yet I've got to prove myself in the room. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, how do we get past, how do we navigate through these things? How do we change this narrative?
Well, a part of it, Rhonda, is we started proving people wrong long before we got to work. Right?
Yeah.
Work is just a continuation of what we've been doing since childhood. Like, we've been proving teachers wrong. It's interesting because a lot of, Black women that I talk to, but women, but especially Black women, we were told by teachers we'll never amount to much. So we started proving people wrong before that happened. We started proving our family members wrong, because I work with a lot of first generation. So we came here spiritually to break generational patterns for our family. So we're not going to be like them. So we started to prove our family wrong. Work is just a continuation of that. So the problem that we have is we have to be the smartest. That's proving people wrong, because we're proving the people wrong, who said that we weren't smart in childhood. And so now we are the smartest people in the room, and we're trying to let people know that we're the smartest people in the room. And we have all these degrees that we have not attached a value to, because the reason why we got the degree was to prove to our first grade teacher that we were smart. We never attached the monetary value to the degree. So now we got all these degrees, and we don't feel valuable, and we don't feel like we belong, which is why we have to continue to prove that we belong. But once you own that you belong, they believe you. Once you own who you are and you own how great you are, you walk in the room not trying to show them how great you are, but you walk in the room as great. They recognize it, and then they open the door. So a part of the work that we do, and why we've done $12 million in salaries in a pandemic in the past 3 years, and typically my clients get the raises with, typically 3-4 months. A year we've double, triple your salary in a year, is because they already are it. They just don't see it. So the work is, why don't you see how great you are? Who told you that you weren't smart? Who told you that you would never make it, long before they got to work, Rhonda? So a lot of women have already made it, but they never stopped long enough to breathe, to come into their present moment and be like, my God, we'd have crossed the finish line 100 times. So there is no marker in our beingness to check off that we made it and we on to the next thing. Well, if I just get this, you know, then I'll be successful. That's the problem. That's us. So I'm not saying that we're not harassed, because I was. I'm not saying that there aren't challenges, because there are. But we have more power than we know. And the problem is people treat you how you see yourself.
Interesting. So you kind of stole my thunder a little bit. You have assisted with $12 million in salary raises since 2020. Talk about the pay gaps for Black women, and what does the process look like other than you? Is that what it's all about? Helping women to understand their value and their worth? Is that really what the gist of it is? But talk about those pay gaps. So why are they there? Because we allow it?
Yes. Black women are the most educated and least paid. That math ain't mathing. That should show you that getting another degree is not the solution. So I know women, Rhonda, who got 2 master's degrees and a PhD and made $65,000 a year. You're like, what? You like $300,000 in student loans?
Yeah.
To make $65,000. And one woman I was talking to, she was like, she grew up in a small town. Because I always go back to their childhood. Tell me about your childhood. Because for me, my gift is I look at people like a quilt. We're a little bit more mature over here, Rhonda. So we know what quilts are. Quilts have patches.
Yeah.
And all I got to do is figure out what patches you got on your quilt from your past, and then I can piece together the story of how you living in your present moment and why you're having these problems. It's all rooted in the past. There's something that happened. So she's talking, and she grew up in a small town, and she was smart, and she graduated, near the top of her class, and messed around and got pregnant. I was like this. Oh, okay. So you Dorothy's daughter who was smart, who was gonna make it in a small town, and you got pregnant. I was like this. You got a PhD, don't you? She was like, how did you know? I knew it because she got that PhD to prove to the people in her hometown she was smart.
Yeah.
But she ain't making no money because she solely got the PhD to prove to herself, fighting people who've been dead 20, 30 years in her mind to prove that she's smart and that she's somebody, but she never attached a monetary value to it. That's why we're the most educated and least paid, is because we're getting these degrees to prove to people that we're smart, but we're not, and we ain't even hanging the degrees on the wall. The degrees in a box somewhere, and we on to the next thing. We're not attaching a value to the degree. We just getting them to prove to people that we smart from 30 years ago. And then walk in the room talking about you got the imposter syndrome. You got more education and more experience than everybody in the room. And if you don't believe it, Numbers 13:33 in the Bible says, and we seem to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seem to them. You seem to yourself like you an imposter, and so you seem to them. You seem to yourself like you don't belong there, and so you seem to them. You seem to yourself as everybody in that room is better than you because they're different than you, and so you seem to them. People see who you see. So a part of the work that we do is to try to figure out, what is the story that you're telling yourself when you get into conflict? What is the story that you're telling yourself when you're sitting in a room with these men and you're uncomfortable? What's the story? How are you creating this based on what had happened in the past? And once we catch that, then the woman understands all we got to do is make a couple of adjustments. Because they already, if I talk to you, you're making 125, and I'm like, you should be at 375. You're already worth $375,000. You just haven't asked for it. Why? That's the work. Let's figure out what happened in the past to create this present moment. Make a couple of tweaks. Bloop, bloop. Oh, you're going to get that money. It ain't about the money, but we're going to get that money.
So what does it mean? You talked about leveling up. What does it really mean to level up, particularly in a toxic work environment? Because I feel like fear, there's this fear, like, who do you really talk to? How do you level up?
So a part, Rhonda, of the toxic environments are created by women who are out of position. Why do you have 2 master's degree and a PhD and you working beside people with a certificate in typewriting? You did that. You out of position. So if you think about it, Lion King, this is a image that I like to show when I'm doing some presentations. Is like the queen, I can't remember her name, but Mufasa's wife, after the hyenas came over and took over the kingdom, she's walking through a pack of hyenas and they like pawing at her and they laughing and trying to bite her butt. So we're queens walking amongst hyenas, talking about us and they treat me bad. It's like, you're not where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be 2 to 3 levels higher, but you applied for the easy job. You applied for the job that you was overqualified for. And then you get in there in the pack of hyenas talking about they don't put respect on my name. They do what hyenas do. You complaining that if everybody toxic, you ain't in the right place. That you out of position. You should get your back toe out. And they tearing your robe off and they taking your crown off and popping the jewels out of it. It's like, we're out of position because we're taking the low-hanging fruit as opposed to owning how great we are and taking our place in the queendom. And I'm telling you, what happens when my clients awaken to who they already are, they show up different. They speak different. They start talking different. People in the room be like, you need a job? My God. They go to these interviews and they're calm and they're confident. People want senior Black women on their team. They don't want an angry Black woman. People want senior women in the room. They don't want an angry woman. So we are angry and they complain and they lock the door. Who want to let an angry person in the room? So they're going to pick a guy who's not angry, who ain't qualified, and then put the Black woman on his team to make sure he don't fail.
Wow.
It happens again and again and again. And so it's like there is stuff that is going on systemic, but there are things that when we own and look in the mirror and admit how we're showing up and then make the few adjustments, they open the door. When I say they roll out the red carpet, they be like, how much? They call my clients. They be like, look, we know we're supposed to do 5 interviews. We want you right now. They chase them down because you have a woman who has peace. She's aware. She ain't angry. She ain't, she's not a victim. She's fully present in her power, unapologetic, not fighting, with peace, and can clearly articulate the value to the team. They'd be like, my God, come in here and give us some of that peace. It happens again and again and again and again.
One of the comments that you made was that we shouldn't quit our jobs for entrepreneurship. I want to talk about that and why that is when we come back from break. We'll be right back on Doctor2Doctor in the chat room on 94.7 FM in just a moment. We are still here on 94.7 FM. I'm here with Ms. Christy Rutherford, the Vision Finder, and we are trying to help us navigate through some of these challenges in the workplace. So you shouldn't quit your job for entrepreneurship. Why is that?
No. A lot of women are quitting our jobs in desperation. We're quitting our jobs on fire. We're not leaving our jobs inspired. We're not leaving our jobs mentally whole. We're not leaving our jobs physically whole. We're not leaving our jobs aware of how great we are. We running away like Tina Turner ran from Ike in that white suit. We just trying to survive.
Yeah.
I did it. And so I left my career with 3.5 years left to retire with a full pension. I left in 2012. I would have retired in 2016 with a full pension. I would have died within the year though. So because I was on fire, you don't leave your good government check. Let's be clear. And I was a high-ranking military officer, so I wasn't no scrub. You don't leave sane. So I was crazy and I was broken and I was tired of fighting. And I felt like an eagle who had all her feathers plucked out. I had one feather left, enough to like run up out of there. And so the enticing thing about entrepreneurship is we are leaders. We have money. We got money stacked. I had money. And so there's a bullseye called sucker on our forehead because we're the targets of people who, because we are the boss. We are boss women. So we think we're going to pick up everything that we are right here and then we're going to plant it right here. It don't work like that. Entrepreneurship requires a whole different skill set than what's in our job. And what I was unaware of admitting or unwilling to admit was I had 10% brain capacity when I left. I was burning out when I left. Entrepreneurship almost killed me, like KILT. So it took probably about another 18 months. I wasn't focusing on my mental health. I wasn't focusing on my physical health. I gotta now replace my 6-figure salary with this. It takes time to make money as an entrepreneur. Does that make sense? And I'm desperate and I'm crazy and I'm in panic because everybody's talking about me. Nobody understands what I did. Family confused, right? The people that I left my successful career are talking about me. My friends are talking about me. And now I'm on to the next journey, Rhonda, of proving the next set of people wrong, all while silently suffering. They didn't know I left because I was going to die. Because I'm the superwoman. They didn't know I'm a high-achieving, high-ranking, powerful woman. They didn't know that I was crazy in the 2 left shoes. They didn't know, like people didn't really know Tina Turner was suffering, right? And so when I finally collapsed, mentally, because I'm trying to put entrepreneurship on brokenness. When I collapsed, I lost my mind. Then I lost all my money. The money followed me. Because had I just simply taken time, and I could have done it in my job. That's why I'm passionate about what I do. I didn't have anybody to make me stop and look in the mirror because there are plenty of articles and all these things to justify why they are the problem. And it's true. But nobody said, Christy, you don't have to work 80 hours a week. You don't have to volunteer for all the DEI initiatives. You don't have to do all the potlucks. You don't have to mentor. I was mentoring 90 people outside of my office with 106 people working for me. Nobody was like, you doing too much. You don't need to do all of that. Nobody was like holding me accountable to me working out 3 to 5 days a week, me meditating 3 to 5 days a week. So had I had who I am today, I'm who I needed 12 years ago.
Okay.
And so when I lost my mind, the money followed that. So I ended up in my brother's house. I think I slept for a year. I'm homeless now, pretty much, because I don't have no money. And my mind, I'm psychologically unemployable. I can't even work because I'm dust. Yeah. So I spent the first year on my brother's couch drunk and sleep. I didn't know how tired I was until I had to stop. So that was a whole journey.
And you say nobody told me I didn't have to do this. Nobody told me I didn't have, but what could you have done differently to have stayed there and lived?
I could have worked 40 hours a week. Because my 40 hours, 50% of my best is better than most people's, 100%.
Yeah.
So one, I should have worked out 5 days a week, 3 to 5. Two, I could have meditated and really like understood what meditation was, which is coming to my body and slow my brain down a little bit. 3, I should have stopped volunteering for all that extra stuff that didn't have anything to do with my job. My job was hard enough. 4, when I'm mentoring all of these people, instead of doing it one by one, I would have did it more in groups. 5, I was telling somebody earlier today, I used to mentor and coach the guys who work for me 3 hours every night. At 5 o'clock, they would bring their chairs in and they would ask me questions till 8. So I'm investing 3 hours of my time to now give them what I didn't have. So a lot of times when we're doing these things, Dr. Rhonda, is because we didn't have that. And so now I'm giving them what I didn't have, but it's coming at a cost because I'm doing all of that at the same time. So those are most of the things I would have done. I wouldn't have been working all of those hours and then complaining about the dude who gets paid the same amount as me, who's working 85 hours a week.
But I still have to ask. I'm sorry to cut you off. I still have to ask, what about the people that live in fear of not wearing that badge of honor of, overworking, working long hours? In the workplace, I see where people tend to look sideways at you like you're not a team player if you say, hey, I got a hard stop at 5. Now, I've learned my lesson from physical ailments and overworking or whatever, and I do. I have hard stops, and when I say I stop, I turn it off.
Yeah, but they respect the boundary that you created.
I don't know whether they do or not. I just thought I'd gotten old and just didn't.
But they don't fire you.
They don't.
So that's it. So that's the answer. So we're afraid to create a boundary, and we expect people to respect boundaries that we never created.
Mm-hmm.
If you say I have a hard stop, even if whether or not they like it, they are still extracting your intellectual property and your highly valuable experience. What they gonna do? Say something? You're giving them all you have between 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
They like whatever, and they respect the boundary that you created. It doesn't mean that they like it, but they respect it.
What is this whole buzz phrase of diversity, equity, and inclusion? And I'm seeing more people not of color leading these initiatives. What is that about? Why aren't more people that look like us leading these initiatives in the workplaces?
I'm gonna answer that question for you. You'd be like, for the listeners, it was a pause and a look. For some organizations, diversity is important, and they prove it with the people that they hire and the accountability that they hold people to, right? The parameters that they set and the accountability that they hold people to with regards to those parameters.
Mm-hmm.
That's very little. Some people hire diversity people just as bobbleheads, as just like a token piece to say we got one, and they don't give them a team. They don't give them a team. They don't give them a budget, and then they try to work them to death.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got some people who say it's important, but then they put somebody who, you put a white man in charge of diversity, which is what my organization did.
Mm-hmm.
They have the role created, but they don't really plan on doing anything. And so organizations like show you who they are. Dr. Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. Mm-hmm. But what they want to do is get all the women and the Black women to volunteer for all of these things, to now work extra hours volunteering for something that they're going to mark you for and ping you on in your performance review because you think you're doing it for the people, and they don't like that. So now you're taking a ping in your bonus and in your compensation because you're in their face telling them what they should be doing for the people, and they don't want it. Mm-hmm. So I think a part of it is becoming aware of the organization that you're in, going to work, letting them pay you to extract your value, but then creating your passion project for your company as opposed to creating it for your company. Create it for your legacy and your company. If that's important to you and that's a passion project, then build it and then bill it. I'm preaching. As opposed to
yes, you are.
As opposed to creating it for a company, and now we're giving away our most valuable asset, which is our time and our intellectual capital, for people who don't value it anyway. That's a decision.
Yeah, and it's such a fine line to me. I often say, because
it ain't fine.
It ain't that fine.
It ain't that fine. It's fine because we get caught up in what we want to do for the people, as opposed to understanding. I was talking to one of my clients last night in this very same thing. Mm-hmm. She want to beat the people in her head in this job, telling them what they should do. They gave her a raise, great. They gave her an $80,000 raise. They gave her something else, and then they didn't give her the title. I was like, why do you want the title? She's like, well, because I want to make a difference. But she's working less with the $80,000 raise, and she has people who will now, because she's going to create a diversity product, and she has them. I was like, man, it's so many people who want this. They'll pay you for it. So you have this opportunity to create a consulting company, but she over here trying to beat these people in the head. Yeah. And I said, leave these people alone. Take that $80K
Yeah.
And that extra time, and then go use it to now build this for your company, not your company. She called me rude. I was like, whatever.
So when I was thinking fine line, here's where my thought processes were. I noticed for me, it's I wanna appear that I'm having given input, right, on the team, the project, or whatever. But at the same time, some of these ideas, I really want them for myself, for what I plan to do, right? So how, like that, I mean, that fine line of not giving them my my information, yet I'm giving enough to say that I deserve the pay that I get. Does that make any sense at all, what I just said?
Yeah, we're over delivering in jobs you don't require it.
Mm.
That was good.
That was deep.
Well, get this CD myself. They don't require all of that. And we're the smartest women in the room. Then have the nerve to say, I'm an imposter. What? That's what we do. You see how crazy this is? That's all in our mindset. Yeah. And they letting us do it. They letting us do it. They see us running around in circles, working ourselves to death. They don't say stop. They don't say, do you need a break? You need to take a week off? We train them to need us. We train them to call us. We train them that anytime they want something, we gonna answer.
Mm-hmm.
We have no peace and we crazy. We try to go on vacation. We're still attached to the phone.
Yes.
And to the emails. So we're not really, and we've trained them to do that. And it's exhausting. And we crazy. And they got peace. And we working ourselves to death. And they got health. They out there playing golf and basketball. And we in the emergency room.
Yes.
That's a decision not to know that if you're afraid of the consequences of actions that you haven't taken.
Oh, Lord.
You're afraid of the consequences of, well, what are they going to say? They ain't paying you enough anyway. So if you were smart enough, you would be out here in these streets going to seek your real value from organizations who are going to pay the queen when she walks in as the queen, who remembers she's the queen. If you know you're a queen, they'll see one too. They'd be like, my God, roll out the red carpet. One guy said, what are the barriers that we need to remove for you to come over here and work with us? You're going to be the only woman and Black person in the C-suite, but we need you. What do you want to work from home? What is it? The money? Like, what do we need to do? He wanted her so bad. She was like, well, my salary requirement is $475. He was like, I see you've been doing your homework.
Wow.
He didn't say, who do you think you are? Mm-hmm. He was like, okay, let's talk about it. She didn't be like, ooh, give me $325. She was like, yeah, my total salary requirement is $475. Mm-hmm. He was like, oh, I see you've been doing your homework.
Now you've kind of covered quite a bit of this, but what are some of the other limiting beliefs that women hold that prevent them from progressing through their...
I'm not good enough. I don't belong here. I'm stupid. I'm a loser. I'm never going to make it. I'm going to fail. I'm going to run out of money. They're going to fire me. I can't ask. If I ask for a raise, then I'm going to make my boss mad and he's going to fire me. I don't have enough. My kids need this. I've talked to women who have $1 million saved and they don't think they have enough. Tomorrow I got to balance my checkbook to go see if I can take a vacation. What? So it's because they grew up without money. So in their mind, when I talked about earlier, there is no marker to, they can have $10 million in the bank. They can be a billionaire, K-Spade. What are you holding on to? And what's the story that you're telling yourself where that's not enough? Mm-hmm. So it's like, when is it going to be enough? They never think they have enough. And so if you don't think you have enough making $1 million, or if you don't think you have enough making $260,000, if you get to 10 million, now your fear is exasperated because losing a net worth of $500,000 isn't as terrifying as losing now a net worth of $20 million.
Right.
You need to solve the right problem.
Mm-hmm. And all of this goes back to the first book that I'm getting, The Trauma
Depot.
Yeah. And I do want you, before we leave today, to kind of walk us through the excerpts of all 5 of those #1 bestsellers. And I know I've already told the audience that we can get those at Amazon. But a lot of these things, these beliefs, that limiting beliefs that we're holding on to, are based on unresolved trauma. Is that how you? Okay.
All caps, absolutely.
Wow.
Is and it's not that once you see, the problem is we don't see how we're operating in the world. Once you see it, then you be like, my God, what next? Then we change it. That's how we get the raises. All we're doing is changing how the woman, how they see themselves. One of my clients was aggressive. I mean, we all aggressive, but she would chase you down the hallway and cuss you out. You say something to her, she would chase you and cuss you out. And then she was like, they don't think I'm a leader. They're like, yeah, you cussing everybody out in the office. But she's brilliant, got an MBA and all these other kind of things. And so what happened was, when she was younger, it was 2 instances. I think her cousin called her ugly or something in front of his girlfriend. She remembers where she was standing. She remembers who was in the room. She remembered where she was. So she didn't stick up for herself. It was 2 instances in her teenage years where she didn't stick up for herself. So now at 42, 43, say something. And it's not, so the person that she's cussing out isn't John in the office. She's cussing out her cousin from when she was 13, because what you not gonna do. Does that make sense? Once she caught up with that, she left people alone. Then went into an interview. She got her piece back. Now she's aware of who she is. And because what happens is that we start to get this feedback that we don't understand. You're aggressive. You're angry. Well, we are, but we ain't trying to admit to that. Yeah. You're not a team player. So we're starting to pick apart how we see ourselves and the golden idol that we've created in the lie, not knowing that it's true. And now the negative feedback and all the articles that are telling us that Black women aren't going to make it, right? The articles that are for Black women that are saying they not treating us right and they not doing this and it's all their fault. So now we're buying into a whole new narrative, feeling powerless while going to work, working 80 hours a week, not knowing that we actually hold all the power if we remember who we are.
Who we are.
You already are it.
We're at another break. I want to talk about some of those fears that we have. I've known people to deal with harassment in the workplace, Black women in particular, to deal with all of the microaggressions.
Did that.
And they don't talk to anybody because they don't trust the organization to hold anyone accountable, and feel really that they'll probably be looked at as a troublemaker for even bringing it up. So we're going to talk about that. We'll be right back in a moment on 94.7 FM. We are still here on 94.7 FM with Miss Christy Rutherford. So Christy, you got folks dealing with harassment. You got folks dealing with those microaggressions, and yet they are too afraid to bring it up because, like, am I going to be considered a troublemaker? What do you do?
Early in my career, I was harassed by these young white guys. Like physically, they were physically aggressive, and I was real crazy. Let's be clear. Went to a Black college, jump on you. And so I used to tell it. These dudes are harassing me, and I'm irate because they're junior to me, and nobody would do anything. The command wouldn't do anything, and then I'm one of 50 Black, and at the time we probably had 20, 25 Black women officers out of 47,000 people. So it's not that many of us. So they were like, so I'm telling my friends, they're all white men. All my friends are white men because it's mostly white men. And they didn't see what the big deal was. And so one day I went down there and threatened to kill and cuss out everybody. I was going to jump on the dude who was like my peer. And I threatened to beat the SHIT out of him. I cussed him out, called him all kind of names, and in front of everybody, and threatened to kick everybody's ass in the room. Say something. So yeah, I am an angry Black woman. And that's the year that I ended up developing arthritis. So I was 25. I had a handicap sign for 6 months. So the rage of not being protected crippled me.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. I stayed. I should have resigned. I should have quit and went and sought other opportunities, but I did that. So now over time, I had a good boss and then I had a bad boss again. Yeah. And I'm telling people, and then I silenced myself. And then I just learned how to endure. When I showed up at work, I expected to cuss somebody out. When I showed up at work, I expected to be disrespected. When I showed up at work, I expected to fight somebody. So now when I get my seat at the table, finally, through blood, sweat, and tears, taking all the hard jobs, working 80 hours a week, burning through my childbearing years, burning my eggs up, single, rubbing my own leg at night, singing tweet, there goes my shirt up over my head, right? Like, oh, I'm by myself. So through all of that, going to all the Christmas parties, laughing at all the corny jokes, buying all the gifts, checking all the right boxes, taking all the hard jobs, doing all these things. So now I finally got my seat at the table and I collapsed at the finish line thinking that I made it. Baby, let me tell you something. You better get up because, that's just the first mile in the marathon. Now you got to defend that seat every day. And that's what people don't tell us. People keep talking about earn your seat at the table. Hold up. No, because we come to the seat broken, shattered, crazy. And we can't tell nobody because we finally got the seat that we fought and we bled for. We can't tell nobody that we miserable. So now we're suffocating in our silence. We're suffocating in our misery. And we can't tell nobody that we've been harassed by the people at the table because we're now in the senior leadership position.
Right.
But we stay, which is the problem. And so a part of it and a part of the fear is we've been picked apart for so long. The worst psychological warfare is now that we turn on ourselves because we hate everything about who we have become, but we don't know that we can change. We don't know that we can be happy. I was standing up on top of my mountain that I finally fought and bled for, talking about, can I get down though? If I just slide down the backside and will anybody see me? Right? You can't go backwards.
Yeah.
So now that's
a whole go backwards.
Yeah. That's a whole different type of suffering because now you're suffering in the success. Basically, it's a cesspool of misery that you created. And so what I have to say for the women who are being harassed, I didn't belong there for the long term, Rhonda. I was supposed to go there to have a job when I graduated from college to use as a launching pad to not go home back to my mom and them. I stayed too long. So yeah, they're going to harass somebody who's out of place and out of alignment. We're not there. And then the fear of not leaving creates this toxic cycle of harassment. So they continue to pick apart how we see ourselves. So now we don't see ourselves properly. Now we're terrified to lose because we think that we're a nobody.
Yeah.
When we're the smartest woman in the room with the most experience and the most degrees and the most, input to give. Now we're going to talk about we introverts. Please. You're not an introvert. You've just been muffled. So, and now we read all the articles and you get on LinkedIn where everybody's fighting all day, every day about what they should be doing for us. And nobody's telling the woman what she could do for herself. That's what I do. I ain't talking about these raggedy jobs. I don't care about that job. Because once I awaken a lioness to that she's a lioness, I step out and back up and get out of the way. One of my clients was crying because she was, came in my group and she was like, I don't belong here. How did I get in here with all these great women? I said, I know a lioness when I see one. Life may have taught you that you a sheep. I know a lioness when I see one. Now we woke her up. She won't stop talking. I'll be like, man, get your own podcast. You got a podcast now. Now she want to take over and talk all the time. I interviewed her. She want to keep talking to my podcast. I'm like, no, I asked the questions. You don't tell me what you want to teach. You get your own podcast. So that's the thing is like, once you awaken to who you are and remember how great you are, they will see it too. And I'll tell you one more story and I'll get off of it. But one lady that, like we work with everybody. So it's not just Black women, but most of my clients are Black women. And so, but we have one of our white clients, She woke up, she took $100,000 pay cut for her job, moving across the country. Like, what is wrong with you? But whatever. So, but this was before she started working with us. And I was like, that wasn't smart. But once she realized how great she was, a guy walked by her desk one day, was like this. He said, hold up. He just walked by. She been sitting at that desk for 2 months. When she awakened to who she was, he saw it. He was like, we didn't place you properly when you got here. Instantly gave her a promotion like that and a $20,000 raise. He said, I tell you what, so I want you to start following me to the executive leadership meetings because I want to prepare you for that. All he did was walk by and stop and saw Lioness.
Yeah.
So her whole countenance changed. How she showed up changed. Her Gucci belt wasn't 18 inches to show people she had value. The value was in how she looked up and said good morning, not good morning. You know what I'm saying? Like it was, hey, good morning. He stopped and instantly she got two $20,000 raises within 2 months and then a promotion. Just because he saw who she now saw. That's and I know it sounds unorthodox and all this other kind of stuff, but it works. We had $12 million in some tough economic times. We killing the game over here.
You did an interview with Mr. Don Green, the Napoleon Hill Foundation, where he talked about taking risks and how someday is not actually on the calendar.
Yeah.
Is there such thing as, this don't sound kind of whatever, safe risk taking?
No. Okay. No, never. I mean, I wrote on one of my mentors' posts the other day, if I'm not failing, I'm not doing something right. Everybody's waiting for the perfect time. I'm going to wait until my kids get older. I'm going to wait for 6 months until. I'm going to wait until my mama gets better. I'm going to wait. Life is never going to open up a perfect window of time and money and resources and support. We're always waiting for a time to do the right thing, as opposed to understanding that you got to jump in where you are and make it the right time. There's never going to be the great sea is not, the Red Sea is not going to part and let us walk through in peace. It's impossible. So we have to get in and change how we see ourselves, change our mindset, change how we're showing up in the world. We make the time. We're creating our life. And through not making the decision is a decision not to make a decision. The act of not acting for fear of failure is an act of failure.
That's a word. That's a word. How did you get here? How did you get here doing this work? And then tell me and tell the audience, for women that are hearing you say, I talked to my client last night. How do they become a client?
Okay. So how did I get here? I told you, I left my job, my good delicious check fell apart and basically moved in with my brother with no money and burned out. I cracked up mentally and physically because, and so now I got time, Rhonda, to think about what I did. I ain't got nothing else to do. I ain't got no job.
And how do you think your thought process is saying, how did you get to the point of saying, you know what, I want to help? Is that it? I don't want another woman to go through what I've gone through.
So once I put myself back together again, then I started writing these books to now pour out what I learned. I had to take ownership and acknowledge how I created that scenario. It was me. Had I still been blaming him, I'd still been in my brother's house or some apartment for $200 a month, driving a used Honda, right? But once I started to own that scenario for myself, what I wanted to do was I wanted to talk about leadership. God was like, no, you're going to talk to these women. I was like, I don't even like women. No. And he was like, well, I'm not going to let you get no money then. And so after 2 years of failing, I was like this. So what you want me to do again, God? What you want me to talk about? Who you want me to talk to? I'm gonna do it, okay? So I had to become comfortable because women who are successful, we never want to tell our stories. I never wanted to tell my story. I never wanted to talk about me burning out and cracking up. I never wanted to talk about me running out of money. I'm Christy Rutherford. I was the 13th Black woman to make commander in the Coast Guard's 230-year history, right? So if you listen to my bio, it's long. I never wanted to say that So a part of the, why I do what I do is I'm who I needed 12 years ago. We've saved 25 marriages. We've kept hundreds of kids out of therapy talking about their crazy mama. We've stopped 12 women from dying and having nervous breakdowns. We've stopped 15 women from having heart attacks and gotten them off their high blood pressure and diabetes medication just by getting them to stop working themselves to death. So I'm passionate about what I do because I know what it's like to almost die from something that's absolutely preventable if somebody would just say, stop. So how they can get in touch with me, they can text change now to 66866 and you can get my case study. It's about a 15-20 minute video that talks about how to get a 30% raise in the next 90 days without getting another degree. For heaven's sakes, stop getting these degrees.
Too late.
Yeah, stop getting these degrees.
Too late.
So,
you should have talked to me 12 years ago.
But yeah, you just text change now to 66866 and then you can get on our email list and be able to get our insight and get acquainted with it. Just takes a while sometimes, Dr. Rhonda, to get acquainted with the new conversation in the market because women haven't been told that we actually have all the power.
You have 5 #1 best-selling books.
I've written 9 books.
Wow. Give us an excerpt of those top 5.
Okay. Trauma Default. Trauma Default is getting a clear vision of your future by breaking the trauma cycle of your past. That's my latest book. It's the greatest book in the world. So it's going to get you to look in the mirror at, like, how are you creating your own suffering, and then give you permission to go out and step into your purpose and be greater. One of my favorite books is Heal Your Brokenness. I'm glad I wrote that then because I can't even connect to that pain. So that's like when you're in deep pain and depression, how do you get out of the hole? So it's 10 powerful days that'll change your life. Then the philosophies of iconic leaders and the philosophies of spiritual leaders, because that's really about, if you see, all great leaders have been through something. All great leaders have survived something. So it's the life of Joel Osteen and T.D. Jakes and Dr. Maya Angelou and Oprah. So you'll know that when you fall into a hole, you're actually, if you choose to get up, your life can be so much greater. And that's 4. All right. And then the last one is Champions Never Tell. So Champions Never Tell is how to survive a toxic workplace. So this is 7 women who share their insight on what we wish we would have known when we're in those toxic jobs and chose differently to be able to leave.
So when women reach out to you, and you said that they could text this number, is that a way to reach out to you? Okay.
Yeah. Well, you can't get me directly. You'll get my team. But
right.
Change now to 66866. Yeah, that's how they'll be able to get my insight. Yes, for sure.
When they do reach out to you, and I want you to say it one more time before you leave. When they reach out to you, what are the steps? What's the process like?
So if somebody wants to work with me, 1, get acquainted with our stuff. 2, they will fill out an application. 3, then we'll get on the phone and see if they're a great fit and we can assist them. So we don't, we need to know, Dr. Rhonda, if they like us and we like them. It's a shared agreement. So a lot of women be like, send me a proposal. I'd be like, girl, I don't even know if we can help you. Let's get on the phone and figure out what's going on. But I love what I do. I have a team. I love what we do. Our work is so crucial in this world. And yeah, so it's an application to be able to apply to work with us, and we'll scan it over and then, see if it's a good fit.
And it's all virtual?
Yeah, it is.
Awesome.
Yeah, we got clients around the world. Okay. London, Paris. Yeah.
And you do
Florida,
quite
Miami.
a bit of motivational speaking.
Yep.
Okay.
Transformational.
Are you working with organizations to help them transform their workplaces? Or are you just working with people to be able to navigate through the challenges of the workplace?
Next year, it'll be more corporations, but right now it's just people. And I work with leaders. So once I get a woman in order, she'll go back and transform her organization.
Yeah, I hope that that's where you're going with your work. Because it's so needed. That's why I asked that question. Any final thoughts before we go? We have about 2 minutes. Any final thoughts before we go?
I think just the biggest thing is, 1, know that you have more power than you're owning right now. Like, we have the power to change the world, but the first thing that we need to do is learn how to take care of ourselves. The challenges that we have in life is just the sheer neglect of how we're showing up for ourselves. That's it. So we need to learn, and it's a learned skill on how to take care of ourselves. And people see who you see. So it's people are looking at who you are. People see who you see.
Give us that number one more time, and we're going to get out of here.
All right. Yeah, you text change now to 66866, or they can go to changenowwithchristy.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for just carving out some time of your busy schedule to hang out with me. And thank you guys for hanging out with me. And please come back next Saturday, same chat channel, same chat time, right here on Doctor2Doctor in the chat room on 94.7 FM. And we will see you then.
Holler.